so welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the UCAT. Now if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that we've been doing our journey to medicine and we've just started our UCAT little topic. And we've done the verbal reasoning, which is the first section, and we've gone over the notes and some topics on that section. So today we're moving on from verbal reasoning and we're going to be doing decision making, which is the second part of the UCAT. Alright, so decision making is the second part of the UCAT. It contains 29 questions which are all placed across 31 minutes. So it's a little bit less time pressure than verbal reasoning. You've got about 1 minute per question, and then at the end you should have about 2 minutes remaining. So decision making is a little different to the first section of verbal reasoning. Decision making is very much based off conclusion, drawing, graph analysing, table drawing, and all of those sort of non-verbal reasoning skills. You require a lot of knowledge regarding how to solve problems and puzzles, how to use graphs and tables. So all of those sort of skills you would have picked up in GCSE maths perhaps, you require those. And it's very much, as I said, a problem-solving based section. So it's not comprehension like verbal reasoning, but it's more of a problem-solving area, which requires sort of very solving skills and aptly titled decision-making skills as well, which, as you know, are very important in medicine. So we're going to get right down to it, to decision-making. Obviously not same as medicine, but a little different. Right, so we're going to get right to it. I'm going to give you some notes. Which I've compiled, and I'm also going to run through some mock questions like I did for verbal reasoning. And hopefully that should give you enough of an introduction to decision making for you to go off and do your own revision. I'll again link all the resources I used having my UCAT down below, but if you want to check them out, I've also linked them in my verbal reasoning video, which I've already done and released. So hopefully that's useful as well. But without further ado, let's get to it. So the questions I've brought are from UCAT Consortium, by the way, so just check out their website. That's the official UCAT website, so I've just taken it from there. Tips. Decision making is a very problem-solving area, and as a result of these kind of areas require high levels of reading the question. It's not enough to skim the question and try and move on to the answer, because you might not have read the actual question and what it's asking for. For example, if it asks for if a question gives you 70 people eat meat every day in this city, but 35 of them eat vegetables as well, what percentage of the people eating meat eat vegetables? It's not asking for the number of people, remember, it's asking for the percentage. So it's asking for the percentage of people who eat vegetables, which means it's 50%, not 35. So make sure you're carefully reading these questions. That's a very simple question I've given you, but in the actual exam there'll be a lot more technical and complex, so make sure you actually read the questions. Second tip is don't bring in external knowledge. You're not required to do any prior learning or revision to this test. It's different in the BMAT, but in the UCAT you're not required to do any external sort of learning of facts or knowledge. There's no set list of what you need to cover in a subject before you sit the UCAT. The UCAT is very much about honing these individual skills. They'll give you all the facts and information you need to know about science and maths in the paper. Regarding, for example, the mass of a hydrogen atom, you don't need to know that before you go into the exam. If they say the mass of the hydrogen atom is 5, it's 5. In the exam it's 5. Obviously in real life it's not 5, but if they say in the UCAT it is 5, then that's what it is. If they say a cat is coloured purple and green, that's what a cat is coloured. So do not bring external knowledge into the UCAT exam, just trust everything that they give you. Decision making is the exact same. So everything that they give you is true and are real fact. Graphs. In graphs you've got a lot of stuff going on in decision making, especially with line graphs, pie charts, all of these different types of graph you'd have covered, maybe in GCSE maths, maybe before that or after. Wherever you covered it, you've definitely seen them before in some aspect. So do cover them, make sure you're comfortable around them, what the axes are, which graph you use for which situation, what the axes are, what different details each graph shows, how to read each graph more importantly, quick ways of skimming information off each graph. Get really comfortable with them because they'll really help in the decision making section. Expect a lot of tables as well. So make sure you understand how a table is laid out, where the units go and everything, so because they come up quite a lot, and that'll be really helpful, I think. Again, time managements are really important. You need to know how to look after your time carefully, because you only get 31 minutes, and although that may seem like a long period of time, decision making is quite a time consuming section because the questions are quite long and there's a lot of information to digest as well. And it's not the same as verbal reasoning. Each question is different from each other. You won't get a question based off one set of information. You won't get 5 questions based off one passage of text like the verbal reasoning section. Each question has its own information, so you've got to treat them like new questions. So the minute of time you get for each question includes reading that question as well. So you need to make sure you quickly read a question and extract the important details. And also make sure that you're not, again, taking overly long time on decision making. If you've gone across a question that you're stuck on or you don't know what to do, skip it, flag it. The flag reviews on every section of the UCAT, so flag it and move on. Do not hang up over a particular question because it's going to waste your time and you'll run out of time to do the easy questions, which again, like verbal reasoning, might be at the end of the section. So the time management is very important in decision making and flagging as well. The final tip are the whiteboards or scratch pads. Now what's important here is, I'm not quite sure, I think now with COVID-19 hit, most people are sitting UCATs at home, so you don't get whiteboards from the UCAT examination centre. I don't know what the situation is going to be like for the rest of this year and next year. I anticipate next year it'll be back to sitting in centres because I think, hopefully, cross finger, COVID should be on the download by this time next year in July to October. But anyway, if you're watching this before this year's exams, because I believe they're going off until September or late September, you have a whiteboard or you have a scratch pad, and I'll show on the screen what that looks like now. But a scratch pad is basically a blank screen, white section of the screen where you can type stuff into and do working out on, and it's very useful. A whiteboard, again, is what they usually give in the UCAT centres, and they give you a pen, and what happens is you are able to write on it and do working out on it. Obviously they don't give you lines of paper, unfortunately, but they do give you a whiteboard. The whiteboard, some whiteboards are not erasable in the UCAT centres, so if you go in and they give you a whiteboard, just do a quick squiggle on the whiteboard and make sure it's erasable. If it's not erasable, then you know it's not, so in the exam you can always put your hand up and ask for another whiteboard. So just double check that beforehand. And yeah, use the whiteboards for decision making. You can't do them in your head, unfortunately. They are just not that easy. A lot of them require tough working out, mathematical working out, laying out drawings. You could try and do them without it, but it'll just take so long. It's way easier to do them on a whiteboard. And then during mock questions, which I'll give you time for, you'll see why they're so hard. And yeah, that's all the tips I've got. That's 5 very quick tips for what to do in the decision making section. I'm going to go through some mock questions now. Hopefully that's enough time that I've given you guys. And yeah, we'll go for them now. So hopefully it's going to be useful for you guys. I'll give you some time to do each of the questions and then we'll run through them at the very end. So I'm going to give you 1 minute per question, and yes, so we'll go over them at the end. Right, so let's get started. Question 1, time starts now. Alright, so question 1 time is up now. Now question 2 starts now. Alright, so that's your time for question 2 up. Question 3 starts now. Alright, so your time for question 3 is up. Question 4 starts now. Alright, so your time for question 4 is up. Question 5 starts now. Alright, your time for question 5 is up. Let's go over all these questions again. Question 1. All tourists who like fishing also like sailing. All the tourists at the resort were Europeans. No tourist at the resort liked trekking. A few tourists at the resort liked fishing. All the tourists at the resort liked photography. Place yes if the conclusion does follow. Place no if the conclusion does not follow. Alright, so this is basically a Venn diagram. So let's draw a Venn diagram for this question. Initially starting off with fishing. So we know that a few tourists at the resort like fishing, and all tourists who like fishing also like sailing. So fishing is here, and let's draw sailing around it. So sailing is here. All tourists at the resort were Europeans. So let's say this is a big circle containing all tourists. So they're all Europeans. So we know that all the tourists were Europeans, but not all Europeans are at the resort. So let's draw another circle around tourists. This circle is called European. A few tourists at the resort like fishing, we've got that. No tourists at the resort like trekking. So let's draw trekking here. The thing is, it could be here, and it could also be here, because we don't know if some Europeans also like trekking. So there may have been Europeans who weren't at the resort who liked trekking. So it could be here, or it could be here. So let's just draw it sort of there. All tourists at the resort like photography. So again, in terms of that, we know that it's going to be outside the tourist circle because all the tourists are inside that. We don't know if it's going to be inside Europeans or if it's going to be outside Europeans, if only Europeans like photography, or if more people than Europeans like photography. So again, I'm going to sort of just draw it out here. Again, it's not something that we know, so I'm just going to draw it like that, just to symbolize we don't know whether it's right or not. But we definitely know it's outside tourists. So that's photography. So all Europeans like sailing. That's not true. Only certain Europeans like sailing. We can see the European circle is here, and only some people in there like sailing. So incorrect. Some Europeans like fishing. Correct. Fishing is inside Europeans. Some Europeans do not like trekking. That's correct, because we know all the people at the resort did not like trekking, and they were all Europeans. So at least some do not like trekking. The tourists at the resort who like fishing also like photography. Correct. The circle for fishing is inside photography. And all the tourists at the resort who like photography also like sailing. Right. So all the tourists at the resort who like photography also like sailing. That's not true, because only some of them would have liked sailing. The circle for photography is not as big. The circle for sailing is inside photography. So some people in this area do not like sailing, but are fans of photography, because this is the sailing circle here. All of this is sailing, but this outside section are people who do not like sailing. Doesn't look very clear, but you should probably get it from the Venn diagram. So that's not incorrect. And that's all it is. No, yes, yes, no, yes. So yeah, that's the first question done. Let's move to the second question. So the next question. A company makes repairs to electrical wiring, freshwater pipes, fibre optic cables and sewage pipes. These repairs are made in blocks A, B, C or D, not in any order, and each of these blocks is situated in either the north, south, east or west region. The electrical wiring problem is neither in block A nor in the western region. The sewage pipe problem is in block B, and the fibre optic cable repair work is scheduled in the southern region. The block C is present in the eastern region, while block A is not present in the southern region. So how are we going to do this question? Now, I'm going to do this question on a piece of paper just because it's very untidy and it won't be able to be done on the computer. But I'll run this through on the camera as well. So I'm going to set this up by drawing each of the regions, basically. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to draw a north, east, south and west region. Instantly remember, use your whiteboard, start drawing immediately. Now, so that's what I've started off with. So you should see on the screen what I've initially drawn. So next we know that there are 4 types of repairs and 4 types of blocks. So I'm going to draw each block in for each region. A, B, C, D. This should be very quick. And I'm going to draw in all the repairs. So for example, electrical wiring, I'm just going to abbreviate that to EW, freshwater FW, fibre optic FO and sewage pipe SP. So again, I'm going to do that very quickly. So now we can go and cross off each one or tick each one that we know is in a particular region or not. So we know the electrical wiring problem is neither in block A nor in the western region. So electrical wiring is not in the western region, and we know it's not in block A. So this also means that we know the western region cannot be block A. This is because if it's the electrical wiring is not in the western region, it also cannot be in block A. So therefore, if it's not in the western region, block A can also not be in the western region. So we know it's not in block A. So the western region can still be block A. So cross off electrical wiring from the western region. Right, so let's move on now. Alright, so we're going to go over this question now. So it's a small question. Should there be laws in place to prevent social networks from allowing children under the age of 13 from signing up? Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Okay, so we've come across questions like this before in decision making. As well as that, we've come across questions like this in verbal reasoning. So how are we going to go about this? Now, the question's asking us whether there should be laws in place to prevent social network from allowing children under the age of 13 from signing up. Right, so statement A is yes, signing up to social media websites exposes children to the dangers of the internet. Okay, yeah, that's true, and it very well can do, but it doesn't really add anything to the argument. We're not really looking for a statement of what it does, we're looking for a reason why we should have the laws. So I would initially actually not put this one down, so I would actually cross this. B, yes, social media companies should be held to account for the activity of their users, and legalization concerning lower age limits enables this accountability. Now, that is better because it brings the argument forward, but the argument is social media companies should be held to account for the activity of their users. And is that necessarily true? So should social media companies be the ones who are controlling who's using their websites? That's probably not true. That's not up to them to decide. It should really be up to people using it to decide what age people should be doing it for, what age people should be signing up to these websites for. Social media companies, their responsibility is to create the app, to create the network, and that's really all it is. They shouldn't be controlling who's going to be, using their applications. That's not on them to do. So I don't think that's a strong argument, but it is an argument nevertheless. So cross that B. Right. C. No children are best safeguarded by schools educating children on the dangers of the internet. Again, now it's saying schools should be controlling children. In a way, that's right, but it's not on schools if children do sign up. They are just there to provide, help and information, but it's not on them again. So I would put C out. So I would immediately have eliminated these. So I'd tick D and move on, flag it and move on if I'm not sure. But let's have a look at D quickly. No, age limiting the use of social media does not help children in the long term. Responsible adults must educate children and make decisions that are right for each child. This is a good answer because adults are the ones, or parents, mums, dads, they're the ones who should, mums, they're the ones who should be making sure their children do not sign up if they're not ready for it. And just banning them doesn't really help them and educate them why they shouldn't be signing up. It just bans them, so they won't think about it. If parents are making these decisions and telling children they're not allowed to sign up, then they'll understand why. Parents can help them understand why and talk them through it. So I think this is a pretty good answer. This is basically a long paragraph. Let's just go to the statements. History influences geography. Let's scan this again. So we can see history here, but let's read the statement. So the geography of the region cannot be overlooked. It's hardly possible to understand history without this constant companion. Now, that means that geography in fact influences history as opposed to history influencing geography. So actually, this is a no. So no. Geographical patterns deeply impact human life. We can see that they do impact human life. The accessibility of a region, especially by sea, triggers economic and social development as it facilitates the movement of industrial goods and services, making them more competitive in the world market. Now, it's a trigger, so it doesn't actually cause big changes. It's a small little alteration to human life. So I wouldn't say it's deeply impacting human life. I would say this is not right either. Alright, rivers provide a natural defense against enemies and invaders. Nowhere in this paragraph does it talk about enemies, invaders, any sort of enemy, territorial, war sort of language is used, so I would instantly put no. Again, you can see we're zooming through these questions because we're just locating keywords here and just going through the paragraph, can't see anything of that sort and going through. That's how we're getting these questions done very quickly. The average income levels in landlocked regions are possibly lower than those of coastal areas. So, money. Nope. Okay, money here. Economic, that's not what they're talking about. Economic here. Again, so let's read this bit. So the first bit is triggers economic and social development. That's not really anything, comparing anything. Let's look at this one. Economic success of resource-rich regions further reinforces this correlation. So, coastal access. Now, we know that coastal access from this question means the accessibility of a region, especially by sea, triggers economic and social development. So we know that a region which is more accessible through coastal access is going to be more competitive in a world market, and that means it's going to have more economic success as it's resource rich. So this is correct actually, because those with landlocked regions are not going to have a lot of access or accessibility. So they're going to be, the coastal access areas are going to have higher incomes. So yes, this is correct. Trying to write this as neatly as I can, but it's very difficult on a computer. Okay, so the financial success of some countries may be attributed to their vast iron ore and gold deposits. So let's look at if there's anything about iron ore, gold. Nothing but iron and gold. However, okay, so the financial success of some countries may be attributed to iron ore and gold deposits. Right. So again, we've just read that the economic success of resource-rich regions further reinforces this correlation. That's pretty easy. We know obviously any country with vast iron ore gold deposits and iron ore deposits will be economically successful. So this is correct. Yes. Right. So next question. So of the 150 aquariums across the US state, 60 had yellow crabs, 43 had white dolphins, 81 had starfish, 20 had only starfish and white dolphins, 12 had only white dolphins and yellow crabs, 9 had only starfish and yellow crabs, 7 had all three. How many of the aquariums had none of these three? So let's draw a Venn diagram. Try and draw this with enough space. That should be enough. You can't see that's a circle. Sorry if this is unclear. Yeah, again, this is very untidy. Doing on the computer is quite difficult. Do this neatly on your whiteboard if you can. It's easier to read. Okay, so starfish, dolphin, crabs. So we know 7 had all three. Now this is usually in Venn diagrams, we'd be very careful of doing this. We usually fill in the first number, and out of these boxes, from the information they give us, we take away this number from, that number that they've given us. So for example, let's look at dolphin and crabs. We know that 12 had only white dolphins and yellow crabs, so usually we would do 12 minus 7 and put 5 in here. The same for this, same for this. So we'd put 9 minus 5 is 4 for starfish and crabs. Starfish and dolphins, we put 9 minus 7 is 2. Starfish and dolphins, we'd put 20 minus 7 is 13. So yeah, 5 here. So we do that. However, we know in this sentence, or question rather, they've given us the word only. So we don't need to do that because we know that the information they're giving us is the information that's going to be in these sections, because it's only, it's not all three, it's only. So we can just directly input this information in. So starfish, let's look at starfish and dolphins, 20. 12 had white dolphins and yellow crabs, and 9 had starfish and yellow crabs. However, for the first three, we do need to do our taking away method of Venn diagrams, because it just says had yellow crabs, had starfish, so we do need to do that. So dolphins, let's start. 43 had white dolphins, 43 minus 20 is 23, 23 minus 12 is 11, 11 minus 7 is 4. Okay, let's do crabs next. So 60 had yellow crabs, 60 minus 12 is 48, 48 minus 7 is 41, 41 minus 9 is 32. Starfish, 81 had starfish, so 81 minus 620 is 61, 81 minus 20 is 61, and 61 minus 7 is 54, 54 minus 9 is 45. Okay, double check. That's yes. 81 minus 20 is 61, 61 minus 7 is 54, 54 minus 9 is 45. Yeah, okay. So now we know 150 aquariums in total, so we just need to add everything in this Venn diagram, take away from 150, and we should have a result. So 4 plus 20 is 24, 24 plus 12 is 36, 36 plus 45 is equal to 81, 81 plus 7 is equal to 88, 88 plus 9 is equal to 97, 97 plus 32 is equal to 99, 129, 120, so 150 minus 129 is equal to 21, and that is the correct answer. So that's pretty much it. Again, that would have been a really easy question if you know mental maths. Again, that's why doing it's really useful, not only for verbal reasoning, but for decision making, potentially abstract reasoning sometimes. Actually, yeah, for abstract reasoning does help as well. So for a lot of sections it helps. So please get good at mental maths. Decision making will help a lot. You can see from this question, I managed to do that in about just under adding and drawing everything. If I was doing it, without the explanations, I'd have been able to do that in under probably 45 seconds, under half a minute, I'd say. And for decision making, you've got a minute for each question, so this should take you about 30 to 45 seconds, which is perfect timing. But yeah, that's a pretty easy question. Make sure you read the details in the questions. Again, the only, that would have caught a lot of people out. But yeah, that's a pretty easy question. Hopefully you got the right answer to the questions, and we're going to go back to the camera now. Hopefully that's given you some sort of a sense of how decision making is, what it's going to be like. It's obviously quite a different section to all the other sections. Verbal reasoning is more of a English-based section. Decision making is more of a section. So it should be okay pretty much if you practice it. In terms of revising for decision making, I would again recommend just doing practice after practice after practice, getting used to numbers, maths, doing quick maths, making sure you're very good at mental maths, especially calculating percentages, decimals, fractions, everything which might seem like very easy. Everything which might seem very easy, but I definitely recommend going over them again, just because you want to in the exam be able to do them like that, because it saves you a lot of time and you'll feel a lot more, safe. The more practice you do, the better you feel in the exam. The better you feel in the exam, the better you usually perform, because anxiety negatively affects our performances in exams. So if you practice more, you'll do a lot better in the exam. So I definitely recommend doing just simple fraction calculations, decimal calculations, what's a half in decimal, what's a third in decimals, what's a quarter in decimals, you know, 0.5, 0.333, 0.25, all of those simple 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, up to about 9, 10, 11. So making sure you know all of those off by heart, and making sure that you're comfortable with all types of charts and graphs. All of this basically simple maths that you learn in secondary school or primary school, making sure you're really into grips with that, because especially if you've taken maths at GCSE and left after that, or if you haven't even done it at GCSE, if you haven't taken maths at GCSE, or if you're not taking maths at A level, you may have slightly forgotten how to do it. And it's really important to be comfortable with mathematics. However much you might not like it, the UCAT requires a lot of maths, especially decision making, so I definitely practice by doing that. Once you've done that, once you've got into the grips of fraction decimals, you're able to convert between them very quickly, then start looking at the practice papers, look at practice questions. Decision making is very much a practice based section. Please let me know if you've got any more questions. Email me, which I'll put here. Also message me on Instagram, which I'll also put here. And subscribe please, and share the channel, and comment below if you've got any other queries, any ideas for new videos you want me to do. I know I've got a couple of ideas in the works, namely BMAT and interviews. And also email me if you've got any questions as well. Message me on Instagram, contact me anyway. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video today. I'll be releasing another one again pretty soon. I'll release another one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today, and thanks for watching. Tune in for the next video.